Randy Gomez with Woodlake and Beyond the Struggle. I'm sitting here again today with Kevin James, my friend, and we're going to go over a couple of things today that what we do at Woodlake, what we do at Beyond the Struggle, to help us get past the struggle that we're in. Today we're going to go over step one. Kevin, like I said last time, I think that you're a phenomenal educator. I think you're the best I've ever seen, in my opinion. And, step one is about the
problem. Yep. Step one is the foundation of actually the whole program, because what I do or don't do in recovery, it sort of hinges on the foundation that we lay in step one.
Great.
And, if you ever talk to anybody that knows anything about the program, they will tell you that's the taproot of everything I do or don't do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, over the years that I've been doing this, I think people who get step one get the solution. And the ones that don't get step one, they sort of half-ass the solution.
Right. And for me personally, it was easy because it was so prevalent. I could admit I was powerless over alcohol.
Right.
But it was hard for me to do that second part of that my life had become unmanageable.
Right.
Because, we're all different. Your drug of choice was something. My drug of choice was alcohol. Right. But if I did alcohol, I would do anything. Right. If I got on alcohol, and whatever was there, I would do. Right. But it was hard for me to say my life had become unmanageable.
Right. I think a lot of people, they put the two together, like my life had become unmanageable because I drank and drugged. Well, for me, if you took the drugs and alcohol away, my life was still a train wreck.
Oh, sure. Oh, so was mine.
Yeah, and I really didn't know this at the time. In my early recovery, the information and the people that I was exposed to were giants in this. Joe McHugh is one.
Right.
And I had the privilege to be trained by Joe. I was one of the last ones that he trained in the recovery dynamics. And at the time, I really didn't know how special that was.
Oh, it was incredible.
And today I do. And, I tell people this all the time. In order to take step one, you got to be armed with some facts.
Right.
And those facts are two things going on. You got something physical, the allergy, and something mental, the obsession. And you have to be able to put them together. And like the allergy and the craving. I've had a lot of people tell me over the years, well, man, I hadn't used in 3 weeks and I'm still craving a drink. I said, no, you're not craving it, you're obsessing about it.
Right. Well, won't you tell them a little bit, what's the difference between obsession and craving?
Well, the allergy, that's the physical part, and I can't set the allergy off until I pick up the first one and I put it in the system. And once I put it in, the allergy produces a physical craving. My body takes over, and my body starts to tell my mind what to do, which is go get more.
The next.
And every good alcoholic like you and me, we know once I put one in, I'm going to be on that well-known spree.
That's right.
And my body's going to keep saying more and more and more and more, and I normally go until I run out, I pass out, I get locked up, or somebody has to physically stop me. And me and you both know, because we've said it thousands of times, after a bad spree, the alcoholic's national anthem. I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I try to live in my own skin for a couple of days, and the obsession, the mental part starts. And the obsession starts working on me, and I get irritable, I get restless, I get discontented, and the obsession says, I know how you can get some ease and comfort. Just do one. So we all repeat the act of the first one again, put it in our body, set off the allergy, the craving takes over, and I'm off to the races again.
And how many times you think you said I quit?
Thousands.
Yeah, same here.
As many times as I've quit, I started.
Yeah.
And how many years now
31.
that you hadn't found it necessary to start?
Right.
I tell people all the time, I hadn't been quit for 24 years. I just hadn't found it necessary to start in 24 years.
Well, I've heard you say a bunch of times to new people, me and you got the same amount of sobriety. We got today. We got today.
A daily reprieve.
A daily reprieve.
That's contingent on what I do in the spiritual part of the program.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But when we're doing education and stuff, I tell people the first time I ever used, I was about 11 or 12. But before that, my life had already started to become unmanageable. Me, I had two powers greater than me managing my life growing up.
Right.
Mommy and Daddy.
Right.
And somewhere around 8 or 9, I sort of discovered self-will. I could do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And that's when it started. And I'm not letting them manage my life anymore. I've took it over. And I was always getting in some kind of trouble, starting to develop some bad qualities, dishonest, inconsiderate, selfish. And in about 11, somebody told me, hey, if you put this in you, it'll change the way you feel. And I said, do you have two?
Yeah, no doubt.
And when I put the first one in, it changed the way I felt. And I had a solution then. But, if you just, the way I sort of explain it, it's like I had a little campfire called self-will burning. I put the first one in, and it was like taking a cup of gas and throwing it on a fire.
Sure.
Shit really exploded. So if you just take the accelerant off, the drugs and the alcohol, you still got a little self-will fire burning. And that's where the unmanageability started to come in. But, when you were out there using, and you said, I'm done. When you quit, was some of the same unmanageability sober still there?
Sure.
Yeah.
The first time I ever used, it was a very, very exciting moment. I eating mustard and bologna sandwiches at a guy's house in his bathroom, drinking lukewarm water and vodka.
And how you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Right.
But listen, the first time I ever drank, I had a blackout.
Right.
That should have been a warning sign. Hey, this is not for you, dude.
Right.
This is not for you.
Did you set off the allergy?
Oh, yeah.
Did it produce the craving? And that's why you went on blackout.
That's what I drank till, like you said, drank till I could not drink anymore.
Right. Right.
And did it numerous times. Blackouts were horrible for me.
Yeah. The step one, they talk about you have to do it 100%. It's the only step that has to be taken 100%. The rest of them I have to do to the best of my God-given ability.
Right.
And to do step one 100%, it's both parts. 50% powerless, 50% unmanageability.
Right.
And a lot of people, especially a real alcoholic, when you explain the first part, they get it like that. But the second part, it goes, whoop.
Living proof.
We talk about education at Woodlake, and I've had several come in the first day, and you explain the allergy and the obsession, and you could see it's like a light bulb goes off. I had one tell me, man, I've never heard that. I went, yeah, I know. Second day, he's not in there anymore. And I said, well, where's so-and-so? Well, he left. He called his wife and said, I know what's wrong with me, come get me. Do you know 2 weeks later, guess who's sitting back in there? Yeah, You got the physical part, but the obsession and the unmanageability, those two things went right over his head.
You know, it's amazing when you sit in those education classes and you're talking to the patients in there, and the guy says or girl says, I've been to 7, 10, 12 treatment centers,
Right.
and I've never heard this.
Never.
I've never heard.
And some good ones, and
Yeah,
some good
no
treatment
question.
centers. You know, we look, man. I'm a little biased, as you are, because we both think in Woodlake is, and it is. And you know, I've been doing this, man. I've been doing this a long time. I've treated a lot of people, and how many times I've heard that people come in and they've never heard of the obsession and the allergy. And you know, the obsession, it's a thought or an idea that overrules everything. And I asked them, I said, tell me the one thing that's nearest and dearest to your heart. And you know, a lot of people with kids say, well, my kids. And I said, when the obsession kicks in, is it like you don't have kids? And they go, yeah, yeah. I said, that obsession's pretty powerful then, huh?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. But you know, the understanding that obsession, because look, if you're alcoholic, you get the allergy when it's explained like that. But getting them to see the obsession and how powerful it is, and once they get that, then you can spring steps 2 through 12 on them. You know, you know, it's no wonder in the big book that the doctor's opinion is in the front.
Yeah.
And the reason it's in the front, because they want you to see just how hopeless and powerless you really are. Because if you never see that, when they spring the main purpose on the book on you, you won't be that interested.
Right.
How many treatment centers you went to?
I went to 8, and then I got 9 years of sobriety doing the things the book said.
Right, right,
You know,
right.
and little by little, I quit doing those little things I'm supposed to do.
Right,
You know, the biggest was serve,
right. Going to meetings,
going to meetings,
doing the
sponsor-
steps,
yeah, doing the
sponsorship,
steps, sponsorship,
carrying the message.
carrying the message.
Yeah.
And as soon as so you know when my relapse started, when I quit doing those things,
Right.
it didn't happen for another 8 to 9 months.
Right.
But it started when I quit doing
But
those.
when you quit doing those things, at that moment, you weren't using.
No.
No. So did the unmanageability start coming back?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you started to get irritable, restless. And what came back?
Oh,
The obsession.
obsession.
After all those years,
all those years.
and what it tell you?
You need, this is going to be your
Put
solution.
one in.
Put one in. And when you put that first one in, it's
When you put the first one in after 9 years, did you go,
nah. I don't know if I did or not. I was also so full of shame,
right, guilt,
guilt.
remorse?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah. You know, Silkworth tells us in the big book that alcoholics remember the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking a few drinks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And believe you me, when that look, I knew at times if I used, I was going to lose everything in one swoop. I was going to lose my kids, my freedom, my home, my job. I knew it. And I could not quit putting the first one in.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy to watch one of us who has that obsession, because the obsession is cunning, it's baffling, and it is powerful as hell. And it'll tell me shit that's not true.
Right.
And the stuff that's true, it'll tell me it's not.
If you would read those first 103 pages,
Correct.
if you read those first 103 pages and you lived your life like those 103 pages said,
Right.
how would your life be?
Like it is right now. Great. Like I never dreamed.
Right.
When I was drinking and drugging, I never dreamed. Not just the material part of it, but up here.
Yeah.
I never dreamed I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't have to have it. I never dreamed those things were possible, you know. But you know, you mentioned the first 103 pages of the big book. When I went to Little Rock and trained with Joe, he signed my book. And you know what he signed?
What's that?
He signed his name in the first 103 pages of the big book. And I said, well, why did you do that? He says, well, after page 103, there's no more directions for the steps. And I when he said that, I really didn't catch, but if you think about it, the directions for the steps,
Yeah.
they in the book.
Sure.
And they in the first 103 pages. And I tell people all the time, I'll get those 103 pages between my fingers and I go, would you rather do this or your program? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But you know, the unmanageability, it's centered between my ears. That's where the unmanageability centers. You know, on page 55, they asked me, we had to ask ourselves a couple of questions. Were you having trouble with personal relationships?
Sure.
Were you full of fear? Could you make a living? And you know, when I was out there, the little times of sobriety I had, I was still full of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still running people off.
Right.
I couldn't keep a job, and it always interfered with that. And it's like I was on an emotional roller coaster. When things would go great, I'd be way up here. When least little thing didn't go my way, whoop,
Boom.
I'd be down here. And it was like, and they ask you that, and that's the unmanageability part of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then when we get down here, we isolate.
Right.
And isolation's the worst thing.
Worst thing.
Worst thing for us. Everybody is addicted to something. And I went to a lot of treatment centers. And I went to some of the best ones in the country. And when I left, you know what they told me? Good luck, I hope you make it. You know, we do it a little different than that. We believe in a process. It's a process to get into recovery.
Woodlake is a full continuum of care, drug and alcohol rehab facilities. We do detox, residential, PHP, IOP, sober living, and outpatient services. And those services are provided all throughout South Louisiana.
I was just in a cycle of just going to treatment, getting out, not making it, going back to treatment. You know, there was always like this one fear about coming to Woodlake that I might actually get sober. You know, and I did end up coming to Woodlake this last time, and I got sober. They gave me everything that I needed.
You know, if you're from the curbside to the country club, we have a program for you. If you're dealing with anxiety, depression, substance abuse, we have a program for you.
I don't use anything conventionally, right? If I have a knife, it becomes a screwdriver, it becomes a hammer. It may not be the most effective thing, but I'm gonna use it. Sometimes I'm gonna need a hammer though. Sometimes I'm gonna need to actually get a screwdriver. And now I've got to distinguish what are those moments where I gotta do that. And it's kind of the same thing we do at Woodlake, whereas they've been using a knife as a screwdriver and it's not working anymore. How do I get a screwdriver in their hand?
I hit my bottom, man. I really did. I was married, I was going through a divorce, and you know, I figured I was okay, you know, I'll be okay. And I started using harder drugs. You know, so I went from smoking weed to drinking to doing heroin and meth. My first time coming through treatment, I walked in those doors of Woodlake July 20th, 2018. And that program that Woodlake offers changed my life.
I knew the day I walked in here that I wanted to live a normal life as best as I could, you know, and get away from my old life just as much as I wanted today, you know. I got a solution today, and it's not drugs and alcohol anymore. It's, you know, it's the book of AA, the 12 steps, and my higher power.
There's a saying that someone very close to me told me. It's when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that couldn't be more true. Like, as soon as I got to Woodlake, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.
You know, now that I've gotten sober and everything, I kind of, you know, like I want to see my, you know, I want to see my siblings healed as well, and experience a beautiful life. So I just kind of push everybody to be their greatest, So
It's working. And I think the story of redemption just kind of keeps coming through with people in Woodlake. The story of whatever your faith is, that story of just redemption is that, lives can be healed, people can be changed, lives can be turned around, families can be put back together. And at Woodlake, we play a part in that every single day. And that is just huge. That's really special.
We want to do love first. And if we do love first, we say that no matter what you do, I can't love you anymore, I can't love you any less.
Like being involved in the Patriot program, I mean, it improved my relationship with my entire family. I went from not seeing either one of my daughters for like 3 or 4 months straight to, I see them every morning before they go to school. I see them every night. I bring my other daughter to dance. I can't coach her in dance, but I can bring her there. And just being able to be there for, dinner, be there for breakfast, it's a big deal. It makes a difference.
The passion or the flame of Woodlake is to serve persons from all walks of life. Persons of color, socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter. And you've been living on the streets, or whether you are an executive, we can help you.
When I couldn't love myself, they helped love me, which helped me find that self-esteem and that courage to want to change and do something different. So I feel like that's what I owe the clients that come to Woodlake, is to love them when they can't love themselves, and to help them in any way possible get to the point where they want recovery, or get to the point where they're willing to do some things different to stay sober.
I can't tell you how many times just eating out at a restaurant or something like that, how many times we have people come up and say, Woodlake saved my life. Yeah, it's big. And Randy says, no, God saved your life. And you saved your life because you did what you needed to do. Woodlake was just an instrument.
When you said you went back out, and the shame, the guilt, and the remorse, did it cause you to isolate?
Oh, the first, I remember going to one meeting and not telling I relapsed.
Right.
And I want to tell you what, that kicked my ass like I've never had it kicked before.
Right.
It was brutal.
And somebody...
Because I had a brotherhood with those people in that meeting, and that I knew they loved and cared for me.
Right. And for anybody, you got a lot of experience. Anybody who goes back out and can't come back into fellowship and admit that, there's no way they're staying sober.
No.
There's no way.
That's right.
And I've seen it. I know you've seen it. People will show back up for a couple of months. You see them, and they won't pick up that chip. They won't tell it, and the guilt just eats them up.
It does.
Yeah. But Randy, I think one of the greatest things I've ever, and I've been taught a lot of great things in this program.
Me too.
A lot of things. But I think the greatest thing I've ever learned was when they explained the problem to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because before that, I came up with solution after solution after solution.
On your own.
Right. To a problem I had no clue about.
Right.
None. And when one of my solutions, okay, well, I'm not going to smoke any rocks. I'm just going to snort powder.
Yeah.
And when I thought that solution, I said, why didn't you think of that before?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm thinking, I must be related to Einstein. I'm so smart.
It makes sense to me.
And then when I fell flat on my face again, which I did every time,
Sure.
I would say, I can't believe I thought that shit was going to work.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how before we really get the problem, we come up with our own solution.
Sure.
How many solutions did you try?
Oh, I drank one. I said, I'm going to drink wine spritzers. But the only problem was I'd go to the bathroom a whole lot more.
Right,
Know?
right.
That's the only thing it was good. But I still drank the same amount of wine.
Right. So when you would come up with your own solution, if you actually think about this, every solution I ever came up with on my own, it always centered around a human being.
Oh.
Either do it on my own, human being. I would try to get in relationships with human beings, move away from human beings, work more with human beings, and every solution always centered around a power equal to me. And that's why they all failed.
Instead of a power
Greater. But once I understood that obsession, how powerful it was, I said to myself, that's why none of my solutions worked. It's going to take a power, not less than or equal, but greater than Kevin.
Yeah. And we talked last time we did about how 50% of this program is these 12 steps.
Correct.
Correct. And me and you are old school. We believe it works and we see it work.
Correct.
And 50% of this program is dealing with the underlying issues. Now, me and you think that the 12 steps deal with a lot of those things. Don't you agree?
They do. They actually do.
I think they do too.
Yeah. But look, you've been around me a long time, boy. And when we first met, you were like, well, I'm not mentioning nothing to him except the steps. But we both come a long
way, sure.
And I'm like this. Look, the group part, the individual counseling, I think it's like icing on top of the cake.
Yeah.
And
for me, it's a necessity.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they need that.
Sure.
And look, I'd be the first one to show them exactly where to go and who to talk to. We talk about Ryan Phillips a lot.
Yeah, great guy.
I would trust him with anybody, any family. If I had a family member, he would be the first one.
I think it'd be great.
And a lot of times, I go, now, Ryan, I know you can't tell me nothing, but how they doing? He says, Kevin, I can't tell you nothing.
Right. Last week we were here, we talked about Tommy Estes and the exposure.
Right. Right.
I called Tommy to tell Tommy that Tommy was on his way to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he had surgery. And he was a big part of Ryan Phillips's life.
Exactly. And Ryan would tell you that.
Yeah, no question he would.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that this program is being passed on to the next generation because I'm getting older. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Me and you both.
Yeah. But again, we're talking about step one today, and I wanted to go back to that a little bit. Let's talk about step one. If you had to use one word, what would that one word be?
Surrender.
Surrender, I think, is a great one. The book talks about honesty.
Right.
That step one is honesty. Admit.
Right.
And so, is talk about step two is hope.
Right.
Tell a little bit about the hope that you get. You have to have honesty.
Right.
You have to have unconditional honesty.
Well, I can tell you for personal experience, when I finally did throw in the towel, and I went, I'm done. It was just different. I say night, morning, I surrendered.
Yeah, sure.
It was somewhere up in between midnight and it's like you mentioned about the lukewarm water, the balonies. That first time, look, there's two things that are etched in my mind. Is the first time and the last. Yeah. And the night I surrendered, I had a bunch of drugs and alcohol in front of me. And I went, I'm done. I'm done. And I told the people in there, I want you to take this and get out. Because I knew I was done. And so when I sat down in that treatment center the next day, and they started explaining stuff, it's like step one and step two happened sort of simultaneously. Because I saw where I was at, And that's the first time I ever had a little hope about a solution.
That's incredible.
But, you know, the coming to believe, they didn't say come to know. They said came to believe.
Came to believe.
And I didn't know if this was going to work, but I knew what I was doing wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. And so, you know, getting into the step 2, and I know we're talking on step 1, but the solution, it's only as good as my understanding of the problem.
Right.
Yeah. You know, last night doing aftercare in the big
Tell a little bit about aftercare.
in the big room, standing room only. People having to, you know, hey, raise your hand if there's a seat on the side of you. And, you know, to see that many people.
Yeah, 300 plus people.
Coming and you know, and it's like, look, I've been doing it long. I can read a crowd pretty good. And last night it was on. And people just paying attention. And when you talk about that allergy and obsession to people, and you could see the light bulb go off, they know there's a little hope. Because this is what a lot of them say. If this guy can tell me what nobody else has ever told me, the problem, he's got to offer a solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, Woodlake's aftercare, okay? You know, we started out 15 years ago in a little room. Do you remember that?
Of course.
Yeah. And I would say, boy, it sure is hot in here. We would have 50 people just crammed in a room. And today, it's a big room, and we got it air conditioned well, and we got, you know, anywhere from 150, 200, 300 people a night.
Tell a little bit about unity, about staying plugged in.
Yeah, like, okay, this Friday, it's the second Friday of every month. We have our Unity dinner. It's at the Life Center in the big room. We feed them. We have a speaker meeting. We give out chips. You know, I think last month we handed out 12 chips.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, and you know, when the pandemic hit, it knocked everything. We got knocked back a little bit with the fellowship part of this thing, you know.
Sure.
And we starting to roll again, and it's picking steam back up.
Well, for about the last year, it's been kicking.
It has,
and it really has been kicking.
But you know, I'm gonna talk a little bit about this. You know, when the pandemic hit, and nobody could go to meetings, you know, a lot of people fell off.
Sure.
And the people who were actually doing the steps, they didn't fall off. And you know, the fellowship is great. It's integral. But the steps are where the real power comes from. And if I can't get to a meeting for a day or 2 or 3, I always have access to the steps and that power. 24/7, 365. But when the pandemic hit and we couldn't get to meetings, a lot of people, man, who were just doing the fellowship part fell off.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, today I think we've covered the first step pretty well. Do anything else you want to add?
The only thing I would want to add is if you ever get to a point where you're ready for some help, step 1 will come very, very easy.
Yeah, and one of the hardest thing for people to do is pick up that telephone to call.
That's right.
That phone feels like it weighs 500 pounds before
right.
when you're trying to pick it
correct.
up and make that call.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want to be there 24/7 for you to help you make that call, help you make, when you make that call, you can feel what we're feeling right here, right now. That compassion, yep. that we know where you come from. We know what you're going through.
Right.
And then you get people in there and you work with them and you can see the transition. Right. It's amazing. Like you said today about that light going off. When it went, you could see, you could look at them and see.
You can tell.
You know, it's amazing.
Yep.
Thank y'all for listening to us. We this is the beginning. This is the
We're the guinea pigs.
yeah, yeah. This is the beginning of the first step. I mean, the 12 steps, and we're going to try to go through them in the next year,
Right.
all of them, and go through. And I'd like to go through the traditions as well.
Correct.
You know, I think that would be a great thing for us to do.
Right.
Thanks for listening. Come back next week, and we appreciate you. God bless you.
Yeah, love y'all.